Assalamu alaikum. So yesterday we talked about, or we started rather the topic of traffic flow theory, traffic flow analysis, and we discussed why we do traffic operations analysis, and the main reason is to find out the present state of the system and also the future state. Okay, and then we defined capacity. We looked at some values for capacity which were in the ideal or the base conditions, and then we looked at the factors which affect capacity. Okay, and these factors include the roadway conditions, the traffic conditions, and the control conditions. Today we'll start the discussion with level of service, okay, which is in short called as LOS. LOS stands for level of service. So level of service is like a grading system for the highway. It's like a grading system. Like we have grading system for U, A, B, C, D, E, and F. Same goes for the highways as well. They have a grading system which goes from A to F, and similar to your grading system, A means the best and F means the worst. Okay, so LOS is a measure of quality of flow along the highway, how the flow is moving along the highway. Okay. So A means it's moving very good and F means not moving at all. When you are calculating level of service is attached to to the operational conditions of the traffic stream. Okay, the level of service concept is attached to the operational conditions of the traffic stream, and these operational conditions include speed and travel time. Okay, freedom to maneuver, traffic interruptions, comfort and convenience of the driver. Okay, so speed increases, travel time decreases, so they are interrelated to each other. So with more speed you will have a better flow of traffic, right? Freedom to maneuver, how easily you can move between the lanes, how easily you can change your direction and path and so on. Okay, that is again freedom increases, level of service goes towards A. Traffic interruptions usually cause more disturbance, more turbulence within traffic. So when traffic interruptions increase, level of service goes towards F. And comfort and convenience, obviously, if you are feeling more comfortable, then obviously the level of service is near A, and more convenience again, comfort in driving, how comfortable you are in driving, convenient, how convenient it is for you to drive as per your own will and your own desire. Okay, so when these two factors increase, level of service is close to A. So instead of measuring these things, separately and then trying to find out how much is the, or how good or bad is the flow of traffic, we summarize them in one grade, that is level of service. Level of service changes throughout the time. It doesn't remain constant throughout the day. Okay, so for example, in evening rush hour period, for a specific stretch or segment of the highway, the users may experience level of service D, which is very low. But at the same highway, at 3 a.m. in the morning, I don't know what the user will be doing at that time on the highway. He should be at home sleeping or praying. But anyways, if he is on the road at 3 a.m., he would probably experience level of service A, because he would not find anybody else there. And so his speed will be higher. He will have full freedom to maneuver. Traffic interruptions may not cause so much effect, and he will feel comfortable and convenient while driving on the road. Okay, so at that time he will feel level of service A. So same highway may show different, or may attain different levels of service at different times. Now level of service is called as a step function. Any grading system, okay, that's why we call it level. Okay, so it's like a step function. Okay, what do we mean by step function? So again, let us take the example of your grades. So your grades from 90 to 100. Okay, from 90 to 100, your grade will be what? If your marks are between 90 to 100, your grades will be what?
A.
A. Okay. So from A to A, from 90 to 100 is the full step. Okay, and within this step, your grade doesn't change. You get 90, 91, 92, 93, 93 or 100, it doesn't matter. Your grade will remain A. Okay, and how much is the range for B? Sorry, how much is the range for A minor?
87 to 89.
87 to 89, approximately correct. Okay, we count the fraction as well, but no problem. So again, 87 to 89, your grade will remain A minor. It doesn't change. Okay, so Salma, is it right? So she is worried. She's worrying a lot about her grade. She remembers everything, which is good. Okay, so you can see an example here. Okay, how the step function may cause grades to change with the same with the same units of change um, in the traffic parameter. For example, if you take for signal, level of service changes according to delay. For signals, level of service is related to delay. So when delay increases, the level of service changes. Okay, but it changes with the step function. Okay, so from 0 to 10 seconds, okay, level of service is A. Okay, from 0 to 10 seconds, level of service is A. From 10 to 20, it is B. And then from 20 to 35, it is C. Okay, so for example, you are having with, let's say, when a new vehicle comes to the intersection, we add a delay of 12 seconds. Okay, or let's say you are trying to find out the signal timing, and when you change the timing of a particular signal, your delay increases by 12 seconds. Okay, now if you were actually in level of service A, and then because of something the the delay change or the delay increased by 12 seconds. So if you were in A, in this portion of A, let's say your delay was already 8 or 9 seconds. Okay, then you add 12 seconds more, you will end up in level of service C. Okay, for example, if it was 9 seconds, then 9 plus 12 will give you 21, right? 9 plus 12 will give you 21. So from A, you will jump to C. Okay, but let's say if your delay was here, let's say 10, 11 or 12 seconds. Okay, so you were already in level of service B and you added 12 seconds more and you are still in level of service C. Okay, so when you were here, 12 seconds gave you level of service C. But when you were here with 11 or 12 seconds of delay, 12 seconds adding still gave you level of service C. Okay, and if you are already, let's say your delay is already 20 or 21 seconds and you add 12 seconds more, you are still in level of service C. Okay, so you can see here that the level of service is a step function. Okay, so within this step it is not changing. If you just increase the delay, let's say you are here, okay, if you increase the delay by 5 seconds, you will end up in level of service B. Okay, and if you are here and if you increase the delay by, let's say, 5 seconds, you will still be in level of service B. Okay, so it's a step function and it depends upon what is the initial condition of the system to see where you will end up in level of service when you increase the level of service parameter. Okay, so it depends upon your initial condition where you are. So if you are already in level of service A and your delay is already 8 to 9 seconds, then adding few seconds may change the level of service. Okay, but if you are in level of service C, which has a bigger step function, which has a bigger step for change, then 2 or 3 or 5, 6 seconds of delay may not change the level of service. Okay, so it's not a uniform scale. This is what I think they are trying to show here. This is not a uniform scale. So you cannot say whenever I add 12 seconds in delay, the level of service will change by 2 levels. Okay, because in case of level of service A, it is changing by 2 levels, right, from A to C. But in case of B, it is only changing by 1 level, and in case of C, it is only changing by, it is not changing at all. Okay, so it's a step function. Okay, so there is a range of parameter in which the level of service doesn't change. Okay, and that step function is not a constant, doesn't have a constant range. Okay, again I will go back to the example of a grade. So 90 to 100 is one grade, but then A minor is only 87 to 89, which is like 3 marks. Okay, so it's a step function again, but it doesn't have a constant range from one level to the other. Okay, who set these values? That level of service A should be up to 10 seconds, B should be up to 20 seconds. These are set by TRB, Transportation Research Board. Okay, it's a it's a big organization, Transportation Research Board. It's a big organization. They have their own journal as well, research journal, and they have their own conference which happens every year. Used to happen, I don't know. I think they are doing it online nowadays. But anyway, it's a big and old organization, very renowned in the field of transportation. So they have a committee on highway capacity and quality of service, and this committee basically collects the research and conducts the research about highway capacity and quality of service, and they set these parameters. Okay, MOE or service measure or performance measure is the parameter that defines the operation of traffic system. Okay, that defines the level of service of the system. So like I showed you in the previous example, the MOE for a traffic signal is delay. The parameter which is related to level of service is delay. Okay, which is related to operations of traffic stream is delay. Okay, so there are different names given to it. MOE, service measure, and performance measure. MOE stands for what? I used it yesterday as well. MOE stands for what? Anyone? MOE.
Measures of effectiveness.
Yeah, measures of effectiveness. Thank God you didn't say Ministry of Education. Okay, so measures of effectiveness, they include delay. Obviously, for different facilities, like I said, it will be a different measure. Okay, traffic operations for different facilities are measured using different parameters. So delay for signals, for example, travel time, speed for some other facilities, number of stops again used for signals or intersections, queue length used for intersections, density used for freeways and multi-highways. Okay, so it depends upon what type of facility you are doing the analysis for. On the basis of that, you will select your measure of effectiveness or performance measure or service measure. For example, the delay for vehicles at signal intersection is important, right? Because signals cause delay, so it is important and it is interesting to study it. How changes in signal timing and how the volume is affecting the delay. So, but at an intersection, there are other parameters as well, which are important for the user. Okay, for example, the number of stops. In how many stops the vehicle can pass through the intersection. Okay, or the queue length. Okay, how long the queue is accumulated at the intersection because of the signal. Okay, so these parameters are also important from the perspective of the road user or from the perspective of the person who is designing the road. For example, queue length. Okay, on the basis of queue length, you provide a storage space. Okay, like in the turning lane, or you may also have to check if the queue is spilling back into the other lanes. For example, let me show it here. So you have an intersection here. Okay, and this is the median, and with the median you have a turning lane. Okay, so this lane is for turning. So the queue length will define what should be the length of this space, how much this space should be. So this is what they are referring to as the storage space or the turn pocket. Okay, the space which you are giving for the lane of the turning vehicles. So they call it the storage space or the turn pocket. Now, if this space is not enough for the queue which is accumulated for the turning vehicles, then that queue will go where? That queue will, spill into the other lane. If vehicles cannot find the space to move into this lane, they will be continuing in this lane. Okay, so this is blocking now the through movement, the straight lane, okay, the lane for the straight vehicles. And you can see it happening on, if you go towards Rifa, from the clock tower, take the left turn towards Rifa. On that highway, if you are going in the rush hours, you will see this thing happening. It's very common there. So if you are just, the point here is, if you are just focusing on one particular aspect, one performance measure, and you ignore the other ones, then maybe you are ignoring some aspect which is important for the road user, or some aspect which is important for the design of the road. So this is why we need to have different measures of effectiveness for a facility, so that it can show us different aspects of the operation of the road. Okay, so delay is very important for everybody, but delay is not the only important thing here for signals. Okay. Similarly, density is used for quantifying the operations of a freeway. Okay, but even on freeways, other measures such as travel time and queue lengths are more related to the perception of the road user. When you are on the freeway, when you are on any highway, okay, then density is important for me as a traffic analyst. Okay, and density is related to many things which are important for drivers as well. But as a driver, generally everybody is thinking about their travel time, right? As a driver, you are always thinking about your travel time while you're on the highway. So if I ignore the travel time, okay, if I don't consider the travel time as a performance measure in my analysis, then I'm ignoring the user perception. Similarly, the queue length, especially at the time of congestion, when the congestion is there, how long the queues are at that time. Again, this is important for the road user. You see a long queue and you start to feel, that you will die on this highway, right? So this is important for the road user. So you have to keep these aspects in mind, and you have to make sure that they are acceptable for the road user as well. So density is important. It is directly related to level of service, but again, this is not the only thing. You have to consider other things which are important for the road user. Okay, these are different service measures, okay, for different types of highway facilities. Okay, so for freeway, basic freeway, multi and highway, freeway weaving segment, merging and diverging, we will cover all of them. We will cover all of them in this course. Okay, so for all of them, density is the main aspect. Okay, and density is the main aspect for auto, for car users. Okay, pedestrians normally not allowed on these highways. On freeways and multi highways, pedestrians are normally not allowed. There is no major effectiveness for pedestrians here. For bicycles, we use a level of service score. For transit, again, we don't have a level of, we don't have a service measure for transit, public transport on freeways. Okay, because they are not, again, they are not supposed to stop on the freeways. They will just move. Okay. So one thing more which you can see from this table is they are using different service measures for different types of road users. Okay, so density for auto users and level of service score for bicycle riders. Level of service score means like it's a sort of an interview, sort of a perception rating. So you ask the bicycle riders who are already using that facility to give you the score. How do you mark this facility? A, B, C, D, or E, and so on and so forth. Okay. So when I say level of service score, that means the user himself will directly give me the rating. Okay, level of service score means you ask the user and he will directly give you the rating as A, B, C, D, E, or F. Okay. Then this is the service measure by different mode, and this is the measure for the whole system. For the whole system. Okay, so combined. If you are like if you have a system of highways of this type, then you will use speed as a service measure. Okay, so this is for each road user, and this is for the whole system of that particular type of highway. Okay, then if you have a 2-lane highway, we use percentage time spent following and speed. You can see 2 here. So level of service for 2-lane highway depends upon 2 parameters: percentage time spent following and the speed. Okay, both of them are related to each other. Okay, percentage time spent following means the percentage of time in which your speed is dependent upon the car in front of you. So you cannot accelerate because of the car in front of you is too close. Okay, obviously it is related to speed. Okay, and again you see the level of service score here and speed here. Okay, for urban street speed, urban street segment. So this is facility. Facility means the full street from start to end. And segment means one segment which is between two intersections. Okay. For stop signs, delay. Okay. Uh, Delay is the control measure, the performance measure. For roundabout, again delay. For ramp terminal, we use ETT, which is experience travel time. Okay, experience travel time means uh, the delay which is caused by the ramp and the extra uh, travel time which we have to you know which we have to travel, okay, because of the ramp. So the ramp is after 1 kilometer. You wanted to take an exit from here, but the ramp is after 2 kilometers, so you have to spend some extra time in getting to that point. So that is also part of experience travel time, ETT. Okay, and the system measure is again travel time. Okay, and again no pedestrians, bicyclists or transit on ramps. Okay, if you have any other type of intersection, okay, then it's again ETT. If you have off-street pedestrian or bike facility like a walkway or a pedestrian or bike lane, then it is for pedestrian. It is in terms of space, how much space you are providing, or how much space is available, and then we have level of service score. Okay, and the system measure is the speed. Okay, so these are the different measures which are related or which help you to find out the level of service for different types of facilities. So you can see for each type of facility we may have a different level, the performance measure, and which can also change for different users on the same facility as well. Okay, when you do traffic analysis, you have to fix your scope of how much space you will cover. So, okay, so we are calling it spatial analysis scope. In terms of space, how much extent of the transportation facility you are covering. Okay, so for example, it can be for each intersection as well. Your scope can be to just do the analysis for one intersection, but now with modern softwares and these things, you can even do the analysis for each approach of the intersection as well. The intersection has 4 approaches. You can calculate level of service for a different for each approach as well. Okay, or you can calculate the level of service for the whole intersection as well. You can do it for the segment. Okay, so a segment includes what? A segment includes one intersection and the link which is upstream of the intersection. So this is your intersection. Okay, so this is the start of the segment. This intersection is the start of the segment and the link before that. So before means upstream. Okay, upstream means before, the link which is before that. So this intersection and whatever link of the road you have before that, that will be called as a segment. Okay, and when you combine multiple segments, we call it a facility. Okay, and when you are dealing with two facilities which are parallel to each other, we call it a corridor. Okay, a corridor. So corridor analysis is very important when you are dealing with diverting traffic. Okay, so you have a corridor here along this path, and you have a parallel corridor here. Okay, so obviously when you are working at one of the corridor, then traffic will be diverted towards the other corridor, right? So if this highway is blocked because of something, traffic will be diverted towards the other corridor. Okay, so corridor is basically the highways which are taking you between the same areas. Okay, the set of highways which are taking you between the same areas. So a corridor analysis is important when you are talking about traffic divergence. Okay, then you have area wide analysis. So area may include multiple facilities. Okay, so you will have a neighborhood or a suburban area. Okay, you will set up the boundary of the area, and within the boundary you will have everything. Okay, all types of highways, segment, facilities, intersections, everything. Okay, and when you combine multiple areas, you will call it a system. When you combine multiple area, we call it a system. Okay, so you have to select from these extents which is your purpose. Okay, you want to do the analysis for a system or an area or corridor or facility or segment or intersection. Okay, so for example, I gave you an intersection, right? For your term project, you are doing it for intersection. Okay, so this is a graphical representation of the same thing. So this is the intersection. Oh, sorry, this is the ramp terminal. Okay, so this is a ramp terminal. This is a segment. Okay, so it will start from here and it will contain this link as well. Okay, so we will discuss about basic freeway and weaving and these things later on. Okay, but let us talk about this. So this is an intersection, again a stop control intersection. Okay, this is a segment. So segment includes this roundabout and this link. Okay, and so if you consider all segments, then it will be considered as a facility. If you consider all segments combined, it will be considered as a facility. Okay, then you can see the corridor, area, and system. Okay, so this whole rectangle is a system because it includes different areas. Okay, include different areas. Okay, and this is a corridor. Okay, so in this corridor you may have multiple highways which are going towards the same destination. Okay, so this is the corridor. Okay, and what do we have? Yeah, and this is on each side of the, you have like 4 or 5 areas here. Okay, so each area has a set of facilities, right? As a set of facilities. Here they are also saying that each intersection is a point. Okay, this is what I missed here earlier. So each intersection is considered as a point. Okay, or each ramp terminal, wherever the ramp is terminating, is also considered as a point. Okay, so it may look, these points may look in the middle of the highway, but they are basically the terminating point of the ramps. Okay, then you also have to set the time period for which you are doing the analysis. Okay, so usually it is done for the peak 15-minute period of the 30th highest hourly volume in the year. So for the full year, you take the data for each hour. Okay, and then you pick, or then you list them in descending order. So the hour with the highest volume will be on the top, and the hour with the lowest volume will be at the bottom. Okay, and you can plot them like this. See? Okay, so on the x-axis, I have the ranking of the hour in the descending order. Okay, so the hour which has the highest percentage of traffic, highest percentage of AADT. ADT stands for what? AADT stands for what? What do you mean by AADT?
Annual average daily traffic.
Good. So average annual daily traffic, the percentage of it. Okay, so the hour which has the highest percentage of average daily traffic, it goes on the top, and the hour which has the lowest goes at the bottom. And these different curves are for different types of highways. You can see the names of the highways are given here. Okay, so you have the hours. Then from the x-axis, go to the value of 30. So 30 is, this is, if I consider this as 10, 20, I don't know. Okay, so 30 is somewhere here. Okay, so you locate 30 on the x-axis, and then you take the hour which is the 30th highest hour. Okay, so this is how you select the hour of the year, and then from within the hour, each hour is divided into 4 15-minute intervals. Each hour is divided into 4 15-minute intervals. Okay, so our minimum counting period is 15 minutes. So within each hour, I counted traffic in 4 intervals, each for 15 minutes. So within that hour, which you have considered as the highest hourly volume for your analysis, obviously it's not the highest, it's the 30th highest hourly volume. So then from that you find out which 15-minute period has the peak flow. Within the hour, which 15 minutes interval had the peak flow, and you design for that flow. Okay, that peak 15-minute flow. Okay, so your temporal scope the temporal extent, the extent of time for which you are doing the analysis is fixed. Normally it is fixed, which is the peak 15 minutes of the 30th highest hourly volume. Okay, peak 15-minute period of the 30th highest hourly volume. Okay, now why we are taking the 30th, why not just take the highest one? Because if you are taking the highest one, that will increase the cost of your design, then because you will design for higher traffic. But these hours you can see here in the graph, these hours are very few. Okay, the hours in which you are you have this sort of a shape which is very steep. Okay, so you see most of the curves are like this. The initial drop is very steep, so that means these hours happen very rarely. These hours are not very common. Okay, so you have very few hours in which the traffic is changing very rapidly. From 30th hour onwards, usually the curve starts to flatten. So you can see from the 30th hour onwards, the curve is flatter. So the change in traffic is not so much. The change in traffic, the change in percentage of ADT is not so much. So we ignore the initial part of the curve in which the trend is very rapidly decreasing. We ignore it so that we are talking about a reasonable cost of the highway. Okay, if you design for this, your cost will be a lot higher than the 30th hour. It will be just for adding few more hours in the year. Okay, so these hours will happen very rarely. Okay, so we can ignore them. So 30 hours in the whole year, you can imagine, huh? 30 hours in the whole year. 1 year has thousands of hours. So from thousands of hours, if you are ignoring like 30 hours, not a big deal. And again, in those hours, the traffic may have been higher because of some event, because of some incident. Okay, it may not be normal. So we want to design for normal conditions. Okay, so we take the highest value, which is from the flatter part of the curve, which is almost normal conditions. Okay, slightly higher than normal conditions, obviously. So when you are doing this taking traffic, okay, so we take traffic typically on weekdays. Okay, and they are saying typical weekdays because traffic is normally higher on weekdays as compared to weekends. And on most of the facilities, on most of the transportation facilities, traffic is higher on weekdays as compared to weekends, because on weekdays you have everything open. The schools are open, the offices are open, the banks, hospital, everything is open. So you will see more traffic because of more activities. Now they are saying we will take it on typical weekdays. Typical weekdays are, you do not include the first and last day of the week, the first and last weekday of the week. Okay, this is if you have to, if you are doing it for the whole year without any gap, then obviously everything is included. But if you want to select on which days you should collect traffic data, and this is for you guys as well, then you go on for collecting the peak hour traffic in the last part of your term project. Don't go on weekends unless you feel your facility is near a location which is more used on weekend, which is more active on weekend. Then it is fine. But normally it is the weekdays, and we consider typical weekdays. So the first and last day of the week is not considered a typical weekday. First day of the week, because everybody is very slow and they don't want to get up from their bed. And last day because everybody is already preparing for the next two holidays. So first and last day are still not considered as typical. They are still not considered as normal weekdays. Okay. So if you talk about Bahrain, then Sunday and Thursday should not be included, right? So we want the weekday traffic should be taken from between Monday to Wednesday. If you for how long, for how many days you should do the traffic analysis, you should collect the traffic data. That will depend upon your site. If your site has seasonal variation, if you are doing it near to a site which has different patterns in different seasons, for example, if you are doing it near a beach, okay, then obviously you will see different seasonal patterns. People would like to go to a beach more often in summer as compared to winter. Same thing for the park as well, the open air parks we have, same thing. Okay, but if you are doing it near a mall, then you may see less seasonal variation, because obviously mall is used in both seasons. Okay, how do we measure the peak 15 minutes flow? You can measure it in the field directly. Like I said, divide your hours into 15 minutes intervals and you collect data for each 15 minutes. So in the end, you know which 15 minutes interval had the peak flow, or you can use the peak hour factor. We discussed peak hour factor in the last chapter, right? So you have the hourly volume. If you have the peak hour factor, you can calculate the peak 15 minutes flow. Okay, so 15 minutes flow can be observed in the field, or you can calculate it using the peak hour factor. Okay, I think we have discussed, or I have mentioned this term reliability earlier as well, right? So reliability is basically for your travel time. How confident and how reliable are you about your travel time while you are traveling on a segment or or on a highway? Okay. So reliability, you know, decreases. Reliability decreases when there's a lot of variation in your travel time. Okay, reliability decreases when there's a lot of variation in your travel time. Okay, so for example, they have given us an example here for a highway. Okay, and you can see the reliability here. You can see the variation in travel time, not the reliability, sorry, the variation in travel time. Okay, and this variation is happening. You can see every time there's a peak. Okay, whether it's upward peak or the downward peak, the highest and the lowest travel times are normally associated with an incident. Okay, so you can see this is one of the lowest travel times, and it is because they were celebrating some day, so maybe it was a holiday there, Martin Luther King Day, so it was a holiday there, and they had less travel time. Okay, two incidents with rain as well. So there was rain, and there were two incidents on the highway, maybe accidents or something, and it increased the travel time a lot. So basically, your normal range of travel time is this one. This is your normal. You can see with this, which is without any incident. Whenever there's an incident or rain or some holiday or something, the travel time goes way up or way low. Okay, so these incidents are basically causing. So if there was no incident, no rain, no holiday, then you will be more reliable about your travel time, right? You will be more confident about your travel time that my travel time is around 15-20 minutes. Okay, but because of these incidents, the travel time is either taking too long or it is taking too short, and you are not confident. Okay, so what are the things which can cause this variation in travel time? They include physical bottlenecks or capacity limitations. Bottlenecks are those areas which are having less capacity than the previous segments. Okay, so they are, I think I showed you in the previous lecture. See this one, this is a bottleneck, right? So you're going from a wider section to a smaller section. Okay, so this smaller section will be a bottleneck. Okay, so obviously bottleneck has less capacity. So when you're going from a wider section to a smaller section, you will you may face extra delay and extra travel time. Okay, because of the adjustment. Okay, or capacity limitations, the volume has gone above capacity. Okay, in that case, obviously you will create a traffic jam and you will see the variation in travel time. Impacts of weather, like they have shown in this example here as well. Okay, and we see it in case of Bahrain as well, especially if there's fog or sandstorm or something. Work zones, basically construction activities, maintenance activities, and again this is very common nowadays, or maybe now I think alhamdulillah they have finishing, now they are close to finishing their work, but like last year it was happening on a lot of highways together. Work zones, traffic incidents, accidents, car breaking down, something like this. Traffic control devices, which include signal timing as well. So signal timing, if the signal is longer, then it causes a lot of variation in travel time. So normally all traffic control devices cause some variation in travel time. Okay, but in case of signal, it can increase or decrease with the timing. Any special events like I showed you here? Can you name any special event for Bahrain which causes a travel time variation? What are the special events in Bahrain which cause variation in travel time? Go ahead.
National Day.
National Day, yes. Anything else? No other events. Huh?
Football matches.
The F1.
Football matches and yeah.
The F1.
Yeah, the Formula One. How can we forget that? By the way, are they still happening? No, right? The Formula One. No.
No, it's not happening.
So people are doing Formula One on the streets and roads now, right? Very good for you guys. Okay, so these are the sources of variation in travel time, and obviously traffic varies during the day as well. Like I showed you in the previous slides, that one highway may have different levels of service in different times of the day. So obviously there is a natural variation of traffic as well, the normal variation of travel time as well. Okay, so this is normal, which should not be too much. Okay, the normal variation should not be too much. If your highway is under normal traffic conditions, the demand is not over capacity and these things are not happening, the normal variation should not be too much. Okay, but there is variation, there is normal variation as well, which is because of the fluctuation of traffic. Okay, so even when any of these things do not happen, you don't have any special event or control devices or incident or work zone or weather impact or bottleneck or capacity problems, even with that you will have some variation in travel time because of normal fluctuations of traffic. Obviously these points are taken from FHWA, Federal Highway Authority, Federal Highway Administration. So finding out the reliability distribution of travel time is important for operational analysis. Okay, finding out the reliability of travel time and the distribution of reliability of travel time is important for operational analysis. Okay, I have a paper related to it as well. I will show you later on. Okay, let me discuss this slide first. So if you plot the travel time, okay, according to the percentage of trips which observed a travel time, this much travel time on that highway, then you may get a plot like this. Okay, this is from their own experience. Okay, this is they observed travel times for different trips on the same segment and then they plotted it. Okay, and they found this. Okay, so how many people observed a travel time of around let's say I don't know, 6-7 minutes? It is 150 people. How many people observe a travel time of 10 minutes? This is around 350, 350,000, sorry, 350,000. Okay, so there is a lot of, lot of data collection. Yeah? Okay, so you can see here, in the middle you have the mean travel time. Okay, then you have the standard deviation, which is around the mean, both sides of the mean. Okay, so from the mean you go, you can calculate the standard deviation. I think we have already discussed how to calculate standard deviation in the traffic course, and you may already know it. Standard deviation is very common in statistics. So you calculate standard deviation. So standard deviation will be on both sides of the mean. So if your standard deviation was, let's say, in this case, standard deviation is 10 and like around 12-13 minutes. Okay, so you put mean in the middle and standard deviation will spread on both sides of the travel time, both sides of the mean. Okay, so if it is 12 minutes, then it is 6 minutes on this side, 6 minutes on the other side, something like this. Okay, then you can see 95th percentile. What is 95th percentile? What do you mean by 95th percentile?
The value which represent 95% of the data.
90%, yeah, good. 95% of the data, which is the highest value, I can say the highest limit for 95% of the data. So this is the value. At this value, you will find 95% of the vehicles. Okay, at this value or below this value. Okay, then the early peak which you see here, this is known as a free flow travel time, or the travel time which you will observe in the free flow conditions. Okay, so it is slightly more than the minimum. Okay, but you see a peak here. Okay, so the early peak is showing the free flow travel time, and then if you do 1.33 times the free flow travel time, you will reach here. Okay, so these are different terms which are important for the planning or the traffic analyst. Okay, so you have the 99th percentile as well, which is representing 99% of the data. Then you have the average of the highest 5% vehicles. So this number is the average of only this area. Average speed of only these drivers who are in this range. The top 5% range. Okay, and then you have the misery time. Okay, I can't stop myself from laughing. Misery time, you feel miserable if your variation is this much. See here, from free flow to the average 5%. From free flow to average 5%. Okay, so this is this is considered as misery time because you are not sure at all. Then you have the buffer time, which is the difference between the mean and the 91st percentile. Then you have the planning time, which is the difference between free flow and the 91st percentile. Okay, now if there is less variation, if there's more reliability of travel time, less variation, okay, then these values will be very close to each other. These values which we are talking about will be very close to each other. Okay, so these are different. So values in this range are considered more reliable. Okay, these are known as reliable trips. Okay, which are from 0 to 1.33 times the free flow. 1.33 times the free flow travel time. Okay, so these values are considered more reliable. More reliable in the sense that they are for normal traffic conditions. Okay, when the traffic is not so high, there is no incident, there is no effect of weather and so on and so forth. So these are considered as reliable trips. So if your highway has this condition, okay, your travel time with this condition is considered as reliable. Okay, so you have to look at the conditions which are having this much travel time. Okay, so this highway in these conditions will be considered as a reliable travel time condition. Okay. Okay, I'll stop here. Continue tomorrow, inshallah. Okay, Ali Akil, Ali Salah, and Iman Kamil. Iman Kamil. Okay. Asma Khalil, Zahra Sayyed, Nujud Salah. Nujud Salah. Not here. Dana Nasir, Nadine Hussam, Noor Yusuf. Dana Nasir, Nadine Hussam. Nadine is not here. Dana Isa, Reem Abdul Hamid, Zainab Muhammad. Dana Isa, Reem Abdul Hamid. Reem Abdul Hamid, not here. Asil Adnan, Nadir Abdul Munim, Latifa Ahmad. Nadir Asil, okay. Salma Jafar, Qasim Tahir, Badr Ghassan. Muhammad Akbar, Ahmad Amin, Ibrahim Muhammad. Muhammad Akbar, Ahmad Amin. Ahmad Amin not here. Okay, so I will share my paper with you, which is about travel time reliability. Okay, we did a paper about travel time reliability for the highways in Europe. Okay, I will share it in the Teams as well as on the blackboard. Okay, have a look. Okay, it may open more things for you. Okay, thank you. See you guys tomorrow, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.